Well, NATO appears barreling towards World War III. This after President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, offered up a peace agreement, which NATO, unceremoniously crapped all over. Now, Victor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, warning all of us that yes, in fact, NATO is moving to expand, building 3 additional bases, and plans to push us into full-blown war with Russia. Watch.
A NATO úgy akarja segíteni Ukrajnát, hogy létrehoz egy úgynevezett NATO-ukrán missziót. Ez azt jelenti, hogy a NATO fogja koordinálni az Ukrajnának adandó fegyverek átszállítását, létre fognak hozni 3 nagy támaszpontot, ahol átadják a fegyvereket Ukrajnának, de még itt NATO országok területén, Lengyelországban, Szlovákiában, Romániában. Mi erre nem vagyunk hajlandóak. Szerintünk, ahol fegyvereket adnak át, az katonai célponttá válik az ellenség nézőpontjából, és ott bármi megtörténhet. És tehát az ukrán misszió azt jelenti a NATO felől, hogy létrehozza ezeket a fegyverkoordinációs átadási pontokat. A második, hogy a NATO tagállamok pénzt dobnak össze, hogy támogassák Ukrajna katonai erőfeszítéseit, és harmadrészt pedig kiképeznek ukrán katonákat. Van egy vita, hogy a saját területükön vagy Ukrajna területén, de a lényeg, hogy a frontra menő ukrán katonák kiképzésében közvetlen szerepet vállalnak. Most Magyarország ebben nem akar részt venni. És ezt a problémát kellett megoldani. Nyilvánvalóan van rajtunk egy óriási nyomás. 31 tagállam tol bennünket bele, hogy úgy, ahogy ők, mi is álljunk át a béke oldaláról, a háború oldalára.
And he's not the only one. We have Serbian President Vucic also saying the very same thing, that war with Russia will start in about 3 months. So 3 months till a full-blown war, this appears to be what NATO wants, and NATO seems to be getting this. Let's ask former CIA intelligence agent Larry Johnson, who has some impeccable sources on this. I wanted to get Larry's assessment of this from an intelligence perspective, and what is sort of like happening in the back channels right now as this appears to be barreling towards war. Larry, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Hey, Clayton. Great to be with you, man.
So, we see Putin put out this peace proposal the other day, and NATO just immediately just stepped all over it. No, we're not going to be giving back this land. This is not going to happen. And it appears that the only solution from NATO's perspective is like a surrender of Russia, which is not going to happen. So what do you think is happening right now, sort of back channels, to maybe prevent World War III, or are we heading towards a full-blown World War III?
With respect to your last question, yes, that's where we're headed. Putin he's playing a game of poker with the West, and the West doesn't realize it's not holding any cards. So when you go back and look at the negotiations that took place in March of 22, Putin at that point was willing to let Luhansk and Donetsk stay within Ukraine. That was then. The West, as you correctly noted, crapped all over that, told Zelensky to back out of that. He did. So they didn't get that deal done. So now here we are. Putin has put a new deal on the table. Okay, this deal now says, all right, we're going to keep Donetsk, we're going to keep Luhansk, and we're going to keep Kherson and Zaporizhia. But come to the table and talk. We'll everything else is open. Notice what wasn't on that list: Odessa. So Putin has left Odessa in play for them, giving the West and Ukraine an incentive to save something of Ukraine. And what did the West do? Once again, as you said, crapped all over it. Okay, they missed this opportunity. Next stop, Odessa and Kiev. So the Russians are prepared. They recognize they are at war with NATO. They're not just fighting Ukraine. And Putin made that very clear last week when he spoke before the foreign ministry. And I was in Russia for the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum a week and a half ago. And it was during that week, on Monday, that I think it was Monday, June 4th, June 3rd, there was a decided shift in what both Vladimir Putin was saying, what Foreign Minister Lavrov was saying, and Deputy Foreign Minister Rybkov was saying. They were making it very clear that the West was playing with fire and that Russia was not going to sit back and be a punching bag. That was their bottom line. And so it's up to the West to figure out what it's going to do. The Russians are prepared to go to war. And here's the real problem. The West is delusional. It's out of touch. It believes its own advertisements. And it's in the self-delusional state where they've convinced themselves that Russia is weak, that the only reason Russia's hanging in there is because of China. And so what the Russ really wants to do is go after China, as you saw Jens Stoltenberg, the head of NATO, say just today. They want to fight China. These guys are like a drunk in a bar that's out of control, wants to fight everybody. And like that drunk in the bar, incapable of throwing a punch.
It's really disturbing, and Victor Orban doesn't want to be a part of it, it appears, the Prime Minister of Hungary, as we just played that sound from you. And here he's laying out exactly what he's being told from a NATO perspective. I mean, this is kind of amazing. I mean, here you have a NATO member saying NATO wants to expand, added 3 additional bases, and they want full-blown war with Russia, and we don't want to be a part of it. I mean, I've never seen anything like this happen before.
Right, and Slovakia is saying the same, and Turkey. Now, that's the key one, because the Turks weighed in last week, said, okay, hey, we want to be a part of BRICS. We're tired of getting stiffed by the Europeans for 25 years. We've been trying to get into the EU for 25 years, and they keep, giving us the finger.
Right.
And now Turkey said, okay, we're getting to BRICS. And the Turks told the rest of NATO, hey, if you get into war with Russia, count us out. Why is that important? Turkey represents the second largest military force in NATO. Without Turkey, NATO's an empty shell, because right now in the U.S. military, the entire strength of the U.S. Army, 455,000. That covers the globe. Russian military is 1.3 million. Normally, any army that's going to get in an offensive action against a defending foe, in this case, Russia would be the defending force, needs a 3-to-1 advantage. Well, do the math. They got 1.3 million. That means you better be going in there with about 4 million folks. They can't even meet the recruiting goals in the United States. The only way they're meeting the recruiting goals now, they lowered, last year they wanted to recruit like 70,000. They missed it. This year they're saying, yay, we're making our goal. Because they lowered the number to 55,000, okay?
Right. This is how they play. Yeah.
When you're lying to yourself like this all the time, and you don't even recognize you're lying to yourself, that's a sign you're in trouble.
And, of course, we learned now the House of Representatives pushing forward with this move to make mandatory registration for service members, men 18 to 26-year-old in the United States into selective service. So as part of a national draft age. So this is really, really scary. I mean, and you heard the Serbian president Vucic also saying that in about 3 months, this is when they're going to war. Like, they're privy to this information, whether through intelligence sources or not. I mean, what from your intelligence sources, when you hear Vucic say something like 3 months, that's when we're heading to war with Russia, or NATO is heading to war with Russia, do your alarm bells go off? Or are you able to confirm, deny anything like that on your side?
Well, from the rhetoric standpoint, in terms of what they're saying, not just what Orban's saying, but what Stoltenberg is saying, what members of Congress are saying, yeah, I think that's the direction we're headed. But here's the problem. Behind that talk, it's easy to be, tough talk and the bombast and the belligerency. But that means you got to put in place, under the U.S. military, what's called JOPS, the Joint Operations Planning Execution System. There's a thing called the tip fiddle. Well, that is the time phase introduction of troops. So tip fiddle means you got to start notifying units, okay, hey, you're going to deploy, and they get the warning, they get an alert order, and then they get a warning order, and then they get a deployment order, and then, so that takes time. Right. I know, for example, on the Gulf War, in the war that started in 2003 in Iraq, that whole process started a year out. So I have not heard any word that that tip fiddle has actually been activated and that they're starting to move troops. But even if they do that, where are they going to get the troops? They don't. It's not like everybody, England's sitting there, max force, 70,000 guys. Okay. That's how many people Ukraine has lost in 2 months. Just to put it into context. Germans, similar size. Finland, Sweden. I mean, NATO's is a joke. And it's talking, its mouth is trying to cash checks that it just can't actually write.
Is it possible then that we wouldn't see NATO trying to go into a direct hot war with Russia, but rather continue down this path? After all, President Biden over the past few days signing that ridiculous 10-year agreement with Zelensky to funnel billions more in weapons and money into Ukraine for 10 years. I guess really regardless of whoever's president, they know that they wanted to get this done before Biden's replaced in office by Gavin Newsom in the next few weeks. So they want to get this done ahead of time so that Trump can't undermine it, can't pull this money back. Is it possible that it'll just continue to be a sieve where we'll just continue to pour money and weapons to clean out the stocks, but not actually go into a full-blown direct hot war with Russia, or has that ship already sailed?
Well, the U.S. can't figure out what it wants to do, and neither can NATO. Because on the one hand, they continue to talk like, okay, we got to step up and get that funding for Ukraine. Except even Stoltenberg admitted, about 3 weeks ago, hey, all of you NATO countries have promised ante up for Ukraine. Where's your money? You've refused to pay up.
Right.
So they're not kicking in. And at the same time, the rhetoric is shifting. Well, Russia's a problem, but China's the threat. We got to deal with China. And so then you start scratching your head saying, okay, guys, can we get rational? Right now, we got a U.S. aircraft carrier task force in the Red Sea. And they can't stop the Houthis, for God's sake. These guys are wearing sandals and carrying curved daggers and throwing missiles at us, and we can't stop that. But by God, we're going to take on the Chinese. And while we're at it, we're going to fight the Russians. Okay, get the bottle away from them. Take the syringe out of their hand. It's like a degenerate drug addict.
Yeah.
They are completely divorced from reality. And, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's the other thing to do. Yeah. And here's the reality is the ability of the United States to do is extremely limited, particularly in this year where you've got a presidential election. Do you think all the young people are lining up going, good Lord, I never thought about enlisting, and being drafted is a great idea. Plus they're taking away my TikTok. I can't wait to vote.
Right. I can't wait and you're going to send me to fight China? Yeah, sign me up. Yeah, they are devoid.
By the way, how are we going to get there? You're going to get on a ship that's completely vulnerable to the hypersonic missiles that China has, and we don't? Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, get on an aircraft carrier. Yeah, get on a sitting duck aircraft carrier from the 1970s. I mean, they are really devoid of reality right now. It's like me when I was in junior, in elementary school, and I thought I was going to play in the NBA. Yeah, it didn't happen. And, well, we'll see. We'll see if Vucic is right. 3-month countdown is on. We'll see if Orban is right. The NATO expanding 3 additional bases and wants a hot war with Russia. We'll be watching all of this as we head into whoever replaces Joe Biden here in the next few weeks, as we head into this crazy 2024 election. Larry, you're going to be very busy. We're going to be busy.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately.
I know. What a crazy year. Well, thank you so much for joining us here, Larry. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, as always, and we'll be checking back with you real soon.
Always a pleasure to be with you, man. Thank you.